Hello and welcome to one and all. In today's class, we will move on to the next question, LAQ 8. Okay, characteristics of perfect competition. So, what are the features of perfect competition? So, this is the question. Okay, so this question is also from Unit 5, Market Analysis. So, the first, you have to give the introduction. So, we have already seen under the classification of markets, markets are classified based on area, based on time, and also based on competition, isn't it? So, the based on competition, market is being classified as perfect and imperfect market. So, the same introduction we are mentioning here. So, on the basis of competition, market is classified into perfect and imperfect competition. So, now what is the meaning of perfect competition? A very brief introduction or the very brief meaning of perfect competition, because anyway we are mentioning all the features. Okay, so the meaning of perfect competition: in perfect competition, the industry determines the price based on market demand and market supply. So, according to the total demand and total supply, that is the market demand and market supply, the industry is determining the price. And one of the most important features of perfect competition is there is only one price all over the market. Okay, so this is the meaning or the brief introduction we are mentioning about the perfect competition. So, in perfect competition, the industry determines the price based on market demand and market supply, and the most important condition is and there is only one price all over the market. So, this only one price, that is the golden rule under the perfect competition. That is one of the most important conditions under perfect competition. So, the industry, the perfect competition, the perfect market should have those kind of features, or there should be certain conditions in which this will lead to there is only one price. There is no possibility of changing the price of the commodity. So, that has to be satisfied in perfect market. So, based on that, we are having the characteristics, you can say characteristics, you can say features, you can say conditions, all are the same. So, all those features, all those characteristics, all those conditions should satisfy that one important principle under perfect competition, that there should be only one price all over the market. Okay, now let us see what are all those various features of perfect competition. So, the first and foremost condition or the feature of perfect competition is large number of buyers and sellers. So, that means what? In a market, if you have to call that particular market as perfectly competitive market, then in that particular market there must be large number of buyers and sellers. Only if there are large number of buyers and sellers, again the condition that there will be only one price that will be satisfied. Now let us see what is the connection between large number of buyers and sellers and only one price. Okay, so what is the meaning here? There must be large number of buyers and sellers, and they have to accept the price determined by the industry. So, in the industry is determining the price based on market demand and market supply, isn't it? So, that price has to be accepted by all these large number of buyers and sellers, so that no individual buyer or seller can influence the market price. So, what is the second sentence saying mean here? No individual buyer or seller can influence the market price. See, for example, you take that for any one particular commodity, let us say in the local market, mangoes are arriving now. Now it is a mango season, isn't it? Now let us assume in any one particular colony, in any one particular local area nearby our residences, there are few mango sellers. There are at the most one seller or three or four sellers. So they are all selling mangoes. For the time being, let us assume there is one, they are selling the same variety of mangoes. Since so many residents are there in that particular locality, so there are so many buyers are there, but only 2 or 3 mango sellers are there. Okay, so now what will happen? Whatever the 2 or 3 sellers, the price which they are quoting for mango, all the buyers have to pay that price. So that means what? The sellers are having more influence on fixing the price. So they might quote very high price because the demand is more but the supply is less, the sellers are less. So in this case, what is happening? since the sellers are less, only 2 or 3 mango sellers are there in that particular locality, they can quote whatever the price they want. Or on the contrary, so many sellers, mango sellers are there, but in the colony only 2 or 3 buyers are there. So what these buyers will say, I won't pay this much amount of price. I will pay only, suppose if the price of mango is 100 rupees, they will say I will pay only 50 rupees or 20 rupees or 30 rupees. Isn't it? So they will say that I will pay only this much. If you want, you sell the mango to me. So that means what? If there are less number of buyers, then the buyers will have more influence on the price of the commodity. But if there are so many sellers for mango in that particular locality, and if there are so many buyers for mango in that particular locality, the price of mangoes already determined in the market by total supply of mangoes and total demand for mangoes by the industry. Okay, so that is the total market demand and market supply of mangoes. One price is fixed for the mangoes. So if there are large number of sellers, they cannot change the price of the commodity. So nobody is having any influence on fixing the price of the commodity. Neither the buyer nor the seller can alter the price that is determined by the industry. So that is again only that price will prevail, isn't it? Whatever the price of mangoes that is determined by the industry based on total market demand for mangoes and total market supply of mangoes. So no buyer, no seller can change that price. So that is why the condition large number of buyers and sellers. Okay, so that is the second sentence. No individual buyer or seller can influence the market price. Thus, under perfect competition, the sellers and buyers are price takers. They are taking the price that is determined by the industry. They are not making the price. They are not quoting the price. They are taking whatever the price that is determined by the industry. Okay, so that is the reason there must be large number of buyers and sellers in the market. Okay, then the second feature or the condition of perfect competition is homogeneity of the commodities. So homogeneity means what? Identical. So the commodities sold by all these large number of sellers must be identical in every aspect. So it must be identical. The color, the taste, the quality of packing, size of the commodity, everything should be identical. So there should not be any even imaginary difference also should not be there in the commodity sold by all these large number of sellers. So only if the commodity happens to be same, then the price will also be same, isn't it? So if two sellers are there, they are selling two different brands of soap. Maybe if the soap color changes, then the price can be different, no? If the color of the soap, if the size of the soap, if the smell of the soap, if the packing of the soap, if everything is same, can the seller change the price? They cannot change the prices, isn't it? So that's why the second condition, homogeneity of the commodities, identical. So the second point is all the firms or sellers in this competition must sell identical commodities. The products are perfect substitutes to each other and their cross elasticity of demand is infinite. So perfect substitute. If the two sellers are selling the same commodity, same soap, then the buyers can go to either seller A or they can completely substitute with the product of the soap that is sold by seller B. So that is a perfect substitute. Totally you can replace the commodities sold by seller A with commodities sold by seller B because there is no difference. Okay, for the buyer doesn't matter, either he can buy from seller A or the seller B, he is going to get the same soap. As long as the price is there, price is the same, then he is not going to bother from which seller he is buying. So that is again another reason. If the seller A is charging less of price, automatically the buyer will go to seller A because he is getting the same product. So that's again another reason the price will not change. The seller A will not charge less of price and seller B will not charge higher price. Okay, and the cross elasticity of demand is infinite. So if two commodities are perfect substitute, then the cross elasticity is infinite. Then you can totally change the commodity. A small change in price will change the infinite changes in the demand for the commodity. If the commodity happens to be the same, a small decrease in the price by any one seller, say seller A, all the buyers will go to seller A. So that is the cross elasticity of demand is infinite. So this point is also very important for those students who are going to write the CPT exam, CPT foundation. Just remember, for a product under perfect competition, they are perfect substitutes and their cross elasticity of demand is infinite. Okay, and as a result, single price will rule the market. So since it is an identical commodity, there will be only one price in the market. So again we are coming to the same conclusion, the same principle, same rule under perfect competition, that there should be only one price. Okay, now the third one, absence of artificial restrictions. So there should not be any restrictions from anyone. The seller is free to sell to anyone, the buyer is also free to buy from anyone. No agency should come and interfere. That is the meaning here. So the point is absence of artificial restrictions. Sellers and buyers are free to sell and buy from anyone respectively. There will not be any restrictions from the producers, government and any other agencies. So now see, you take for example, the government is interfering. Okay, so the government is interfering and telling the seller that you should sell only through government agencies. Your product should be sold only through government agencies. You cannot sell through the open market, only through the government agency. That is if the government is entering and putting a restriction like that. Now what the government agency will do, the seller cannot sell at the market price. So if the commodity is sold through government agencies, see for example like ration shops and all, we are having the ration shops and all, isn't it? So you know that in the ration shops the prices are lesser than the open market price. So again there will be two prices. So if the commodity is sold in the through government agency, then the price will be one. If the commodity is sold through open market, there will be another price. So that is not allowed under perfect competition. Okay, so that's why there will not be any restriction. If the seller and buyer are free to sell and buy from anyone respectively, then everywhere there will be only the market price. So that is why there will not be any artificial restrictions, absence of artificial restriction. So that's why there will not be any restrictions from the producers, government and any other agencies. So everyone is free to buy and sell so that the market price will prevail. Okay, then the fourth point, free entry and exit. Now free entry and exit of what? Free entry and exit of new firms, new sellers in the market, or old sellers can leave the market. New sellers can enter the market and old sellers can leave the market. There is no restriction. So the point is, new firms are free to enter the market when the existing firms are making abnormal profits. Okay, so let us go back to the same mangoes example. So initially what is happening during the mango season, let us assume that there are some 10 sellers coming and selling mangoes in that particular locality, and they are all according that situation, total demand and total supply, the price is fixed. Okay, so now because what is happening, that this 10 sellers of mango, they are getting huge profits because the demand is more. So they are getting huge profits. So looking at this 10 sellers of mango getting very good profits, now what happens, another 5 sellers will enter into the market. So if another 5 sellers enter into the market, now what will happen, the supply will increase. So when the supply increases, the price is determined based on total demand and total supply. So when the supply increases, the price determined by the industry will come down. Okay, so again it will come back to the original equilibrium price. Nobody will sell at the higher price. Okay, that means what, there should not be any restriction for the new sellers to enter into the market when the existing sellers are making extra profits. Okay, so if there is a restriction for new sellers to enter, then the sellers will quote higher price than the market price and they will continue to make extra profits. But if there is a if the new sellers are allowed to enter into the market, these existing sellers, they cannot charge higher price. They will always have to charge the price according to the total market demand and total market supply. So no one will make extra profit. Everybody will make only normal profit, because if the supply increases, the price will if the supply is less, the price will be more. But if the supply increases, then the price will decrease and everybody will be making only normal profits. So that's why new firms are free to enter into the market, and at the same time the old firms can leave the market. Suppose if there are no demand for mangoes, so these 10 sellers, they are making losses. If there are no demand for mangoes, now what will happen? The price will come down, the price will be very very low. So these 10 sellers, they will be, some of them may be incurring losses. Okay, so if they are incurring losses, let us assume that out of the 10 sellers, 3 sellers are incurring losses. Now there should not be any restriction for these 3 sellers to leave the market. Now what happens? So out of the total 10 sellers, the 3 sellers, they are leaving the market. So when they leave the market, now what will happen? The supply will come down. So when the supply comes down, then the price in the market will increase. So when the price increases in the market, all the sellers again will be making only the normal profits. So when the price is very high, then the sellers will make extra profit. At that time, new firms will enter into the market, then the supply will increase, the price comes down, and all the sellers will be making only normal profits. And if there is a if the demand is not there, then the sellers will be incurring losses. So if some of the firms leave the industry, again the supply will come down and all the sellers will be making only normal profits. So I can explain to you with the help of a diagram. It will be easy for you to understand. Okay, see now just a minute. So let me explain to you with the help of a diagram. Okay, now here x-axis we are measuring the demand and supply of mangoes. Okay, and y-axis we are representing price. So initially the industry is determining the price based on market demand and market supply. So you know that the demand curve slopes downwards and the supply curve, it slopes upwards. Okay, now initially this is the price determined by the industry. So this is how the industry determines the price in the perfect market based on market demand and market supply. Okay, now what happens? For some reason the price in the market increases. So let us assume that the price in the market increasing. So from OP, the price in the market increases to P1. Okay, so now what is happening? So now this is the extra profit the sellers are making from P to P1. This is the extra profit. Now the extra profit they are making. Now why the price is increasing? Suppose if the demand in the market increases, demand in the market, the people's income have increased, whatever might be the reason, the demand for the commodity increase. So when the demand for the commodity increase to from D to D1, supply is remaining the same. There are only 10 sellers in the market. Supply is remaining the same. Now what is happening? The price, now earlier E is the equilibrium point. Now E1 becomes the equilibrium point. Now where the new demand curve intersects the supply curve. Now what is happening? The price in the market will increase to P1. So now the existing suppliers, they are getting extra profit, isn't it? So this is the extra profit they are getting. Now if the new firms enter the industry, now what will happen? The supply will also increase. So matching to that, the supply will also, the new firms enter into the industry, there should not be any restriction. So if there are no restrictions for the new firms to enter into the industry, then once the new firms enter, that means the supply will increase. So supply is also increasing from SS to S1, S1. Now again what is happening? The equilibrium position is changing to E2. Now the supply sales will also increase. So initially there is only a slight increase in the supply. So now what is happening? The supply is also increasing to Q2. The price is remaining the same, isn't it? So when the price has come down from P1 to P, then this extra profit, there will not be any extra profit. So if the new firms are entering into the industry, allowed to enter into the industry, no one can make extra profit. Similarly, if there is a reduction, existing firms can leave the industry. So again, I'll explain to you in a different diagram. So as usual, demand and supply of mangoes and price on the y-axis. No, so this is the original situation, original demand curve, original supply curve, and the price determined by the industry. But for some reason, the demand for the commodity decreased. Now the demand for the commodity decreased, then the demand is shifting to left, D1. Now what is happening? The equilibrium position also shifts. Now the price is now decreasing to from P to P1, isn't it? The price now decreases to P to P1. The quantity sold also decreases to Q1, and the equilibrium position is also shifting down to E1. So now in this case, because of the decrease in the price, the existing sellers, they are incurring losses. So when the existing sellers, they incur losses, some of the sellers should be allowed to leave the industry. So if some of the sellers are allowed to leave the industry, then the supply will come down. So when the supply comes down, so then supply curve will also shift to S1. So now then there will be same. So now this is the demand curve, this is the supply curve. Now again the price is coming back to the original level. Okay. So this is the supply curve is intersecting at this point. So the price will, so the new equilibrium point. So now what is happening? The price is going up from P1 to P. So this losses will be wiped out. So everybody again will be making only normal profits. Okay, so that is the reason there is a condition that new firms should be allowed to enter the industry and existing firms should be allowed to leave the industry. So then there will not be any abnormal profits or losses. Every firm will be making only normal profits and the price will come back to the original equilibrium price. Okay, so you are coming back to the same rule. There will be only one price in the market. Okay, then the next one is the fifth condition is perfect mobility of factors of production and goods. So perfect mobility means what? The factors of production are free to move from one seller to another seller. Okay, so factors of production, that is land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship, are free to move from one firm to another firm where they get higher incomes. Similarly, a firm can sell its product in the market where it can fetch the highest price. Okay, now again let's go back to the explanation, the perfect mobility of the factors of production. See, for example, you take, there are two sellers, seller A, and for the sake of convenience we are taking, there are two sellers in the perfect market, seller A and seller B, and there is labor. Let us name the labor as Geeta. Okay, so now I mean any factor for that matter, land, labor, capital or this thing, we are taking the factor labor. So this Geeta, she can work with seller A or she can work with seller B. Okay. Now what is happening? Seller A, Geeta gets rupees 10,000 as wages. Seller A. And the seller B, if Geeta gets rupees 15,000, now what will Geeta do? She will shift, Geeta will automatically shift to seller B, isn't it? Because Geeta is getting more wages from seller B than from seller A. So the seller B knows that if the seller B pays higher wages, Geeta will come to me for work. And seller A also knows that seller B is paying higher wages, so I should also pay higher wages. So seller A will also pay higher wages, equalizing the rupees 50,000 paid by B. So now what will happen? Only if there is no restriction for Geeta to move from seller A to seller B. If there is a restriction for Geeta to move from seller A to seller B, then continuously seller A will pay only 10,000. Continuously there will be differences in the wages. If there is a differences in the wages, then that will lead to, so differences in wages leads to differences in cost of production, isn't it? So since the seller A is paying lesser wages, the cost of production for seller A will be lesser than the cost of production of seller B. So differences in cost of production, which will lead to, what will happen? What will be the final result? Which will lead to differences in prices, which is not allowed in perfect competition. So everybody, both seller A and seller B will pay the same wages to Geeta. In the same way, all the sellers should pay the same rent, should pay the same wages, should pay the same interest, and they all should be getting the normal profit. So that will happen only if there is no restriction for the factors to move from one firm to another firm, for the factors to move from one seller to another seller. So everybody will be paying the same wages and everybody will paying the same rewards to the factors of production. So the cost of production will be the same, and then the prices will also be the same. So that's why there is next condition, there must be free mobility of factors of production. Similarly, there should not be any restriction for the seller to sell the goods anywhere he likes, whichever the market from which he is getting the highest price. So all the sellers will be selling at that particular market. Again, if there is a restriction, some sellers will be selling in a market where they are getting lesser price. Again, that is not allowed. So if there are no restrictions, all the sellers, they will be selling at a market where they are getting the highest price. So everybody will be selling at the highest price, which is again the same price all over the market. Okay, so that is why the condition, perfect mobility of factors of production and goods. And then the sixth point, absence of transport costs. Since there are no transport costs, price of the commodity will be the same throughout the market. So this is for the sake of convenience, we are assuming that all the sellers and buyers, they are staying nearer to the market. So if there are nearer to the market, then there is no transportation cost. See, suppose if one seller is having the shop at a far off place than the market, then he has to bring it to the market, isn't it? Then he will include the transportation cost. So if he or she includes the transportation cost, again the price will change. So in order to avoid that, it is assumed that everybody is staying nearer to the market, so there are no transportation costs which will increase or decrease the prices. So for the sake of convenience, we are assuming that there is no transportation cost. So since there are no transport costs, price of the commodity will be the same throughout the market. Then the last condition or the last feature is the perfect knowledge of the market. So it is assumed that both the buyers and sellers have perfect knowledge about the market and price of the product, so that no buyer will purchase at a higher price than the market price and no seller would sell at a lesser price than the prevailing market price. Okay, so that means what, everybody knows, large number of buyers and sellers we have seen. So all the large number of buyers and sellers, they all know what the market conditions, that is whether the demand is increasing or decreasing, what is the trend in the changes in demand and supply. And apart from that, most important thing, they all know what is the prevailing market price. So if the buyer knows what is the prevailing market price, so if the price of the commodity is 100 rupees, he will not pay 120 rupees, isn't it? Similarly, if the price of the commodity is 100 rupees again, the seller will not charge 90 rupees, isn't it? So no buyer will pay extra price out of ignorance, and no seller will sell at a lesser price out of ignorance, because they all know that 100 rupees is the market price. So they all have the perfect knowledge of the market. So the commodity, if the market price determined is 100 rupees, the commodity is bought and sold at 100 rupees. Okay, so again there will not be any change in the price of the commodity. So for that reason, the perfect knowledge of the market. Okay, so now these are all the various features or the characteristics of the perfectly competitive market. So hope you have understood the answer. If you have any doubts, please mention it in the comment box. So otherwise, please like, share and subscribe to my channel if you find this video useful. Okay, so until my next class, take care. Bye bye.